Hello and welcome to Portfolio Matters Share Talk. In today's Share Talk, we will be discussing the small British drilling technology and engineering company, Enteq Upstream. But before we do that, Richard will read the disclaimer.
Thank you, Keith. So everything discussed during the Portfolio Matters podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice. Listeners should be aware that we will be discussing securities that we own or have a financial interest in. Please do your own research or consult a professional investment advisor before making any decisions regarding topics mentioned on the show. A full disclaimer can be found at the end.
Okay, Enteq Upstream. I should warn you here that I'm very much talking my own book and that I like this company and I have owned it for a while. So this is the share price of Enteq Upstream over the last decade. And it's rather a sad story, actually, that Enteq Upstream was formed by a group of executives who had successfully sold their previous business, and they decided to buy into US drilling technology companies, essentially at the height of the shale oil boom. And so they paid up, and then the peak of US shale oil drilling was in. And since then, essentially the number of rigs being used has collapsed from about 1,400 to 300 now. So they overpaid and the share price collapsed. And the Enteq Upstream they've been quietly plodding along, developing technology, but as you'll see, it's now a very small company. So what did it do? Well, the companies it bought originally specialized in measurement while drilling. So when you're drilling your oil well, your shale oil well, you want to know exactly where the drill head is and what sort of conditions the drill head is encountering. And you want that measurement to be absolutely as close to the head of the drill bit as possible. So they bought various technology companies that specialize in these systems, and they amalgamated all the technology into a drill bit. Now, in the last couple of years, the company has the potential, it's acquired technology that will potentially completely transform it going forwards. In 2019, it licensed rotatable steering systems developed by Shell, and Shell chose them as the technology partner to commercialize this system. Now, if you listen to the chief executive, Shell had spent a lot of money developing these systems. So, Enteq Upstream, its current share price, actually it's ticked up in the last couple of days, so it's now about 16p, I think. But essentially, you can almost get this company for free. You know, the market cap is like 10.3 million. The cash is 6.5. This is like from the 2020 year end. I mean, this company is pretty much going for free. But there were years, last year it had revenue of 11 million. It's going to be lower this year, obviously, because the markets collapsed. But there were the years previously where the revenue has really gone down. And this is quite a small company. But going forwards, the movement into the rotatable steering system market will completely transform the project prospects for this company. The measurement while drilling market is only about 200 million a year. The rotatable steering system market is billions. Now, one of the main reasons I bought Enteq Upstream is because I think there's an upturn in the oil market, and that will increase exploration budgets and production budgets, and rising tide lifts all boats. But also, and this is not going to be a near-term catalyst, but in 2021, we get the first prototypes of the rotatable steering system. And then in 2020, late 21, 22, perhaps it comes into production, and that transforms this company. And as I've said, the shares are absolutely dirt cheap. Okay, so company history. The management all came out of Sondex, which specialized in these measurement, downhole measurement tools, which was acquired by General Electric. And in 2011, Enteq Upstream was listed on AIM as an investment vehicle. And then in 2012, it acquired XXT, another leading provider of measurement while drilling systems, and then also KMS and ProFlow, all of which were in the US. It then amalgamated all their technologies into a single drill bit piece. And then in 2019, it licensed the rotatable steering systems from Shell. And the prototype is due in Q1 this year. Field testing in Q2. So there are some near-term catalysts which could send the share price up. And is it a coincidence the share price has ticked up a little bit in the last few days? And frankly, when the share price is 15p and the total value of the company, excluding cash, is about 4 million, it really doesn't take much news to send the share price up. And what I really like about this company is it has continued to plug away at the technology. And although it is an absolutely tiny market, it does seem to have some reputation. So Shell chose it as the commercial partner for its rotatable steering system, and it's been working with this Polish company, Black Gold Research, to produce an improved telemetry system. And we will take you through some of that. Okay, so this, frankly, is the sad history of the purchases of this company. This is the US drill rig count. So it's how many drilling rigs are currently in operation. And you can see in 2012, when the company bought its American technology companies, the drill rig was very high and rising, and everyone thought that shale boom would last forever, and they paid up. Unfortunately, there have been a couple of oil cycles since then, both of which have been incredibly bad for the economics of the shale oil sector. And the rig count absolutely collapsed and has never approached those highs. And so essentially it overpaid. Now, what does it do? What are these measurement while drilling systems? Well, they are bits you put at the end of the drill bit which tell you where the drill head is and what conditions it's encountering. And frankly, there's a load of stuff on the website, and I try to understand azimuthal whatever it was, and I couldn't. I did some digging around on the internet, but it's all there if you're really interested. But I think the key point is that the drilling services market, directional drilling servicing market, which is where the rotatable steering systems will take them, is much, much bigger than the measurement while drilling market is, which is where they currently are. Now, this is a schematic of what they do. And this is the drill rig. This is the hole being dug by your drill head. And at the top here is the rotatable steering system. It's called SRSS, I think, because the first S stands for Shell. So it's the Shell rotatable steering system. And then essentially you have bits of telemetry which take the signal from your the sensors at the drill bit back to the well bar at the top of the rig, so they can then find out what's going on and direct the drill head. So Enteq have all the technology you need to direct the drill head and measure what's going on and send the signals back to headquarters. And this is a schematic of all the bits they offer. So this is the rotatable steering system, which is in operation. This is their sensor, the azimuthal, whatever it is, which tells you, what conditions the drill head is encountering. And then you send the signal from there to the measurement while drilling section, which sends the signal back to headquarters. Now, this is the piece of technology that will hopefully transform the company, the Shell rotatable steering system. And this was licensed in 2019, so it's quite recent. And frankly, I don't think the market has really taken on board the potential changes in this company. As we've said, it starts to be prototyped and tested this year. And it's a much, much bigger market. And it's continued investing. So the impressive thing about Enteq, I think, is that for a small company, which has had, frankly, very poor revenues and has been very disappointing, it has continued to invest in the technology. And as you'll see here, it's expecting all this investment to pay off and it to be in the market by 2022. So there are near-term catalysts. As a result of the latest downturn in the oil market, it has restructured, and the group headcount is now just 19. So it is a very small company. Okay, so revenues. H1 2020 revenue was not big. It was 2.6 million. So, really, this is a tiny company. But yeah. The good thing is that it really has diversified. So it's got some Chinese customers now and new contracts in South America, in Saudi Arabia, sorry. Whereas previously it was almost entirely the US. And, it's not been great. Adjusted EBITDA of 100 grand in the half year 2020, and a cash outflow of 1.4 million, which reduced its the amount of cash it had. But it has continued to expand, to invest in R&D and expand its rental fleet for the coming upturn. Now, one thing you should be aware of is that it doesn't sell into the whole oil market. What it sells into is the independent oil service companies. The big oil service companies have their own solutions. So Schlumberger, GE Baker, Halliburton, they're not customers. The customers, the independent oil field service providers. On the 10th of February, so very recently, it hired a new product director, which I take to be a very positive thing, given that there were only, 19 employees? And I'd just like to read his statement. When I first began talking to Enteq about this role, I was skeptical. Here is a company not currently active in the rotatable steering system market, with a concept that takes a fundamentally different approach to traditional RSS and directional drilling tools. However, on closer examination, it became clear this is an incredibly exciting project to be part of. Not only was I convinced by the management team that this was a company with ambition and momentum, I was also encouraged by Enteq's operational and engineering track record for downhole solutions and reputation as a trusted independent supplier. What's more, looking at the concept in detail, it was clear that every technology in here is field proven. It simply took that stroke of inspiration to combine it for a new, elegant alternative to existing RSS design. I've been in this industry a long time now, and it's rare to see such effective innovation. Well, I'm convinced. I hope you
indeed.
So anyway.
You're an entirely independent bystander.
Well, exactly. So this is a tiny company, it's but it is dirt cheap and it has potential. So you can see some years, I mean, the turnover was really, really low. 4.8 million.
Looking at this, you've got at the bottom, you've got cash is entirely equivalent to net debt.
Yeah.
Is that?
It hasn't got any debt, Richard. That's what it's saying. Okay.
I see. Right. Okay.
So the net debt is minus 14.1, which is equal to the cash, essentially. Sorry if that's confusing.
Yeah.
The other thing is, obviously, it's never made a profit. So it's
that's
not without its risks.
Is it? That's not why you're suggesting one should buy it. You're suggesting it's for the future of the RSS drill bit.
Precisely. So positives. Oil market is picking up and it has diversified its geographic customers. It now has customers in China and Saudi Arabia. But above all, it's got this whizzy new technology, and which promises to enter it into a much bigger market. And the Shell technology promises to be revolutionary, they say. It's also restructured. It's a lower cost, simplified, simpler company going forward. And the shares are absolutely dirt cheap. You can buy this company for 4 million, essentially. It's like net of cash, 4 million.
So, Keith, do you know what the share of any revenues are that they have with Shell?
I don't. Sorry.
And have they got any projections as to their anticipated revenue?
No, there's nothing. No, none of that. I haven't been able to find the service agreement or anything.
Right.
So negatives. It's a tiny company. It's clearly overpaid for the original measurement while drilling technology, but above all, the market for it just completely collapsed. When it bought it, there were well over 1,000 rigs in operation in the US. There are now 300. So basically, the size of the market has just massively decreased. It's never made a profit. So essentially, in order to believe that Enteq is a good investment, you have to believe that the market for drill rigs is going to improve, and I think it will, and also that it will make a success of this new rotatable steering system that is licensed from Shell. And I think there's an opportunity. The one thing I would say is that the shares obviously are incredibly illiquid because it has a market cap of what now 11 million. And I will admit to having some form with this company. So I bought it during the last oil cycle, and I made a decent 50%. But when I tried to sell it, I couldn't. I mean, I did not have a big holding, and essentially, this share spike downwards, I think, is me. And I ended up trying to sell literally a few thousand shares a day, every day. And, if you add this up, a few thousand shares was not very much money. And the share price just kept on going down because I was going in. I think I was the only seller. I mean, the only person active in these shares. And I was selling a few thousand a day, just trying to get out of my tiny position. So, I mean, it's desperately illiquid. And I made a decent return on it.
But rather frustrating process, I would imagine, Keith, seeing the price drop every time you try to sell some.
Well, exactly. And, the moment I stopped, the share price bounced back. So, perhaps I should have just been more patient. But ultimately, it was a good move because I managed to buy back in at a much lower price. So, in summary, that's Enteq Upstream. I hope you'll take a look.
Can I just ask you one question? If you go back to the previous graph, Keith, was the catalyst for the price rise from, say, March 17 of 15p up to 38p? Was the catalyst for that simply an increase in the oil price? Or was there something else? Yes,
increase in the oil price, increasing rig count. That's it.
So if it were to follow that trend again, whether or not RSS is successful or so forth, What you're saying is you would expect the price will drift up with the oil price
Precisely.
in the
Yes.
same way it did then, yeah.
I would. Yes. So,
Good.
frankly,
Well,
I think you get, potential upside from this whizzy new technology, dirt cheap. What's
yeah.
not to love?
Well, thank you very much for that, Keith. It's really interesting. And we'll have to add that one to our watch list as well.
Well, I already hold some, Richard, and I might buy some more. I've convinced myself through doing this presentation that there's an even bigger opportunity there than I thought. So anyway,
Good.
okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Please press like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope to see you again soon. So it's goodbye from Richard Wheater.
And it's goodbye from Keith Jordan. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Full disclaimer. The material and information contained in this podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon for making a business, legal or any other decision. We may own or have a financial interest in any securities mentioned. Listeners should conduct their own research or consult a professional investment advisor before making any decisions regarding topics mentioned on the show. Whilst we endeavour to ensure that the information presented on the show is correct, we make no representations or warranties of any kind, express or implied, with respect to the podcast and website or to any information, products, services or related graphics discussed or presented in the podcast or website. Any reliance you place on such material is strictly at your own risk. You are solely responsible for the investment decisions you make. We will not be responsible for any errors or omissions in the podcast or website, including in articles or postings, for hyperlinks embedded in messages, or for any results obtained from the use of such information, nor will we be liable for any loss or damage, including consequential damages, if any, caused by a reader's reliance on any information provided by the podcast or website. Please do not listen to the podcast if you do not accept self-responsibility for your actions.